My uncle told everyone his nephew was faking drowning at his company pool party for attention, then physically blocked 32 people from rescuing the boy while his boss watched. I was at Uncle Rick's company pool party when I saw my older cousin fall off the pool floaty. "Liam's drowning!" I screamed from across the yard. Uncle Rick was sweet, talking to his manager and 3 executives from corporate. He barely glanced over. "That kid's been pretending to drown all summer for attention. Liam, stop showing off!" Liam's head went under again. I counted. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. My Aunt Linda started toward the pool, but Uncle Rick grabbed her wrist. "Don't you dare embarrass me! He pulled this same stunt at the country club last week." "Rick, I don't think you want me to lose this promotion. Sit down." The blood was spreading in the pool like red smoke. I ran to the pool edge, but stopped. I couldn't swim. Mom could never afford lessons. My friend Mark whispered, "We should do something." That's when Leah, who was 13 and on the swim team, kicked off her flip-flops, but her mom grabbed her arm so hard it left bruises. "Don't even think about it." "But he's drowning." Uncle Rick said he's fine. "We can't afford to upset him. He owns Daddy's restaurant building." I watched Liam's movements get weaker. His arms weren't thrashing anymore, just these small, desperate pawing motions. I knew from school that it was the worst sign. Silent drowning. Liam went under for 10 seconds, 15, 20. Mrs. Pidge, whose husband worked for Uncle Rick's bank, actually stepped in front of the pool ladder, creating a human shield. "Stay back! You heard Mr. Rick!" Even the teenagers were frozen. Hugo had his phone out, but his dad knocked it into the water. "Don't you dare record this! Rick's lawyers will destroy us!" Liam surfaced again, weaker now. His face was white except for the blood. "Please!" I begged the adults. "He's my best friend." Mr. Hiffner, who ran the corner store, looked torn. "Maybe we should—" "Hiffner." Uncle Rick's voice was ice. "Didn't I just approve your business loan? Shame if I had to reconsider." Liam had been struggling for almost a minute now. Brain damage starts at 160 seconds. Death at 4 minutes. My mom was screaming at Uncle Rick. Other kids were crying. But Uncle Rick had positioned himself like a bouncer, arms crossed, blocking the pool gate. "Everyone calm down!" His dad probably told him to do this. Ruin my party and make me look bad. Almost 2 minutes underwater. Liam wasn't moving at all now. Just floating there, face down, arms spread like a starfish. "Move!" Sarah tried to push past her dad. He shoved her back so hard she fell. "You're grounded, both of you! This manipulation stops now!" That's when I knew. If I didn't do something right now, Liam would die. And Uncle Rick would let it happen, just to save face in front of his boss. 2 minutes, 10 seconds. I sprinted to the fence. Uncle Rick screamed behind me. "Get back here! You're banned from my house! Your whole family is dead to me!" I hauled myself over the 6-foot fence, feeling the wood splinters dig into my palms. Crash! I landed into Mrs. Hiffner's garden on the other side. "Help! Call 911! Kid drowning! 497 Terrace Lane!" Mr. Hiffner was already running with me. His son, a paramedic, grabbed his medical kit. We vaulted back over the fence together. Uncle Rick tried to block us. "This is private property! You can't—" Mr. Hiffner's son shoved him aside like he was nothing. Dove straight in, clothes and all. 2 minutes, 55 seconds. Liam's lips were blue. His little body completely limp as Mr. Hiffner's son pulled him onto the pool deck. No breathing, no pulse. "Everyone back!" Mrs. Hiffner was on the phone with 911, giving instructions. Uncle Rick was still yelling about trespassing. His party ruined, threatening lawsuits. Then Liam coughed. Water poured from his mouth. The most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Him crying. He was alive. But our celebration was short-lived. The hospital said he'd been without oxygen for nearly 3 minutes. He had water in his lungs that would cause breathing problems for life. Uncle Rick's boss fired him on the spot. Any man who'd let a child die to impress me is no man I want in my company. The police took everyone's statements. 32 witnesses saw Uncle Rick physically prevent people from saving Liam. Security cameras from 3 different yards caught everything. I was at my aunt's house 3 weeks later when they broke the news. The water in Liam's lungs had caused an infection. His weakened body couldn't fight it. He died alone in the ICU while we were all at home, thinking he was getting better. But that wasn't even the worst part. Uncle Rick pulled enough strings that his lawyer successfully argued it was a tragic misunderstanding. All the adults who'd blocked us from saving Liam lied. Said Uncle Rick was just being a concerned parent who thought Liam was playing. When the adults had left us, I said what we were all thinking. They killed him. Every adult at that party who stopped us from saving my brother is a murderer. They thought we were just kids, but they had no idea what was coming. That night, after the adults finally let us go home, my phone started buzzing with messages from Mark and Hugo and Sarah and all the other kids who'd been at the party. None of us could sleep. Mark had already started a group chat called What Really Happened and was typing out everything he remembered with exact times. Hugo was listing every single adult who'd blocked someone from helping, their names burning into my memory like a brand. Sarah confirmed which executives from Uncle Rick's company had been there, the ones he'd been trying so hard to impress while Liam drowned. My hands were still shaking as I typed out what I'd seen from my angle across the yard. We all knew the adults would try to make us forget or twist what happened into something else. The next morning, Mom woke me up early looking worried. Uncle Rick had called a family meeting at his house, but made it clear only adults were invited. She left me with cereal and cartoons, but I could tell something was wrong. When she came back 2 hours later, her face was pale, and she wouldn't look me in the eye. She sat down at the kitchen table and told me Uncle Rick's lawyer had been at the meeting. The lawyer made it very clear that anyone spreading lies about what happened could face defamation lawsuits that would destroy us financially. Mom's voice cracked when she said we couldn't afford to fight Uncle Rick in court. She made me promise not to talk to anyone about the party. Monday came too fast, and sitting in class felt wrong when Liam should have been 3 desks over. I kept staring at nothing, seeing his face turning blue over and over in my mind. Our counselor, Ms. McAllister, noticed and pulled me aside after second period. She had kind eyes and asked if I wanted to talk about what was bothering me. I wanted to tell her everything, wanted to scream about what they'd done, but Mom's warning echoed in my head. Instead, I just mumbled something about having nightmares about swimming pools. Ms. McAllister gave me her card and said I could talk to her anytime. That afternoon, Hugo texted us all to meet at the park after school. He pulled out his phone phone and showed us something that made my stomach flip. His neighbor had security cameras that faced Uncle Rick's backyard and had shared the footage with Hugo's family. You could see everything crystal clear. Hugo's dad knocking the phone into the water. Mrs. Pidge physically blocking the pool ladder with her body. Uncle Rick shoving people back. Hugo had already made 3 copies on different USB drives and hid them in different places. One in his locker at the school, one buried in a waterproof bag in his backyard, one at his cousin's house 2 towns over. This was our insurance policy if the adults tried to change the story. 2 weeks after Liam died, I was doing homework when the phone rang. Mom was in the shower, so I answered it. The voice on the other end said they were a reporter from the local paper asking about the incident at the pool party. My heart started racing, but before I could say anything, Mom came running out dripping wet and grabbed the phone from me. She hung up immediately and told me never to answer calls from numbers we didn't know, but I'd already memorized the reporter's name from their introduction. Later that night, I looked them up online and found they'd written several articles about Uncle Rick's business dealings before, investigating shady loans and property deals. Leah texted our group chat in a panic the next day, saying her mom had found out about our messages. Her mom had gone through her phone and forced her to delete everything right in front of her. But Leah was smart and had already backed everything up to the cloud using her school email account her mom didn't know about. When Leah came to the school the next day, she pulled up her sleeve to show me something that made me sick. The bruises from where her mom had grabbed her at the pool were still there, purple and green marks shaped like fingers. She'd been taking photos of them every day with time stamps, documenting how they changed color as they healed. She said they hurt every time she moved her arm. A few days later, I got a private message on Instagram from an account I didn't recognize. It was Mr. Hiffner's son, the paramedic who'd pulled Liam from the pool. He said he was willing to testify about what he saw as a medical professional, how Liam showed every sign of real drowning and not fake attention-seeking. But he warned me that Uncle Rick was already pressuring his father about their store's business loan, threatening to call it in early if they caused trouble. We agreed to stay in touch through a secure messaging app that deleted messages after reading. Liam's memorial service was held at the big church downtown 3 weeks after he died. Uncle Rick stood at the podium in an expensive black suit, giving a speech about water safety and the importance of teaching kids not to cry wolf. I wonder what Uncle Rick's boss was really thinking while watching this chaos unfold. Did he truly not notice something was terribly wrong, or was he choosing to look away? He announced he was donating $10,000 to the local swim center in Liam's memory. I watched Sarah's face turn red as her father talked about responsibility and safety while standing over her cousin's closed casket. She couldn't take it anymore. Sarah stood up in the middle of his speech and walked out, her heels clicking on the church floor as everyone turned to stare. Uncle Rick's face went red, but he kept talking, his voice getting louder as he watched his own daughter leave. The next week, Mom got a call from the district attorney's office officially declining to press criminal charges against anyone from the party. They cited insufficient evidence of criminal intent, saying it appeared to be a tragic misunderstanding. But when Mom hung up and went to the bathroom, the phone rang again. The same secretary whispered quickly that we should keep those videos safe and that sometimes civil cases succeed where criminal ones don't. She hung up before I could respond, but I understood what she was trying to tell us. One afternoon, when Uncle Rick was at work, Aunt Linda called and asked if I could come over. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks, and the house felt empty without Liam's laughter. She took me to the living room and asked me to tell her exactly what I saw that day. Her hands shook as I described Liam's face turning blue and how he'd stopped moving at the end. When I told her about Uncle Rick blocking people from helping, she started crying so hard she couldn't breathe. She admitted she'd suspected Rick was lying about the attention-seeking, but had been too scared to challenge him. She said she'd been sleeping in the guest room since the funeral and could barely look at him anymore. 2 days after that visit with Aunt Linda, I was back at the school trying to focus on math when the counselor pulled me out of class. She'd set up chairs in a circle in her office, and there were already 4 other kids waiting. Mark was there even though his parents had forbidden him from talking to me. Hugo sat next to him with dark circles under his eyes. Leah picked at the fading bruises on her arm, while Sarah stared at the floor. The counselor closed the door and sat down with us. She said she knew we'd all been at the pool party and wanted to help us process what happened. She couldn't ask directly about the incident, but she started teaching us about trauma and how our brains respond to scary situations. She showed us how to write down what we remembered with dates and times, and told us to keep copies in safe places. She explained how important it was to tell the truth, even when adults pressure us not to. Mark kept looking at the door like his parents might burst in any second. After the session ended, Mark whispered that his parents had told him our family was stirring up trouble and banned him from seeing me. But he said he'd been secretly uploading all the photos from the party to an encrypted cloud service his parents didn't know about. He had timestamps on everything showing exactly when things happened. We agreed to meet at the library after school, where his parents wouldn't find us. 3 weeks into September, I was walking to the school when I saw it. Someone had spray-painted "Child Killer" in huge red letters across Uncle Rick's company building. The paint was still dripping when I passed by. Police cars were already there taking pictures, but the security cameras had somehow stopped working that night. Uncle Rick was screaming at the security guards while workers tried to scrub off the paint. By lunch, everyone at the school had seen the photos online. Uncle Rick hired 2 private security guards to patrol his building at night and installed new cameras everywhere. But the damage was done, and people were starting to whisper about what really happened at the pool. The counselor called me to her office again that week and handed me a business card. She said it was for someone who might help me talk about grief and healing. On the back was a private email address written in pencil. I recognized the reporter's name from when they'd called our house. I went to the library computer lab and created a new email account. I attached just one photo from the party showing the pool with the timestamp clearly visible at the bottom. I didn't write anything else, just sent the photo and logged out. The next Monday, Hugo came to the school with red eyes. His dad had lost his job at the company where Uncle Rick had connections. They said it was restructuring, but everyone knew the real reason. But Hugo said his dad wasn't backing down. He'd started calling other parents who were at the party, asking them what they really saw. Some hung up on him, but others started talking. The wall of silence was cracking. I started having these attacks where I couldn't breathe whenever I heard water running. The shower made me panic. Mom would find me curled up on the bathroom floor gasping for air. She finally agreed to let me see a therapist, even though we could barely afford it. The therapist specialized in trauma, and after our third session, she got very serious. She said she was required by law to report suspected child endangerment. She'd already started filing paperwork about the pool party based on what I'd told her. 2 days later, 12 families got letters from Uncle Rick's lawyer. The letters warned them about spreading malicious rumors and threatened legal action. But instead of scaring people, it made them angry. Parents who hadn't even known the full story started calling each other asking what was going on. The lawyer's aggressive tactics made Uncle Rick look like he had something to hide. More people started questioning his version of events. Then Leah's mom showed up at our door crying. She said Uncle Rick was threatening to evict them from the commercial property where her husband ran his restaurant. She begged Mom to make me stop causing trouble. She said they'd lose everything if Uncle Rick followed through. Mom's face went hard, and she told her to leave. As she walked away, I heard Mom say that her husband chose property over her nephew's life. The reporter's article came out that Friday. It was carefully written with lots of alleged and reportedly, but it laid out the basic timeline. The most damaging part was one simple fact that nobody could dispute. Emergency services weren't called for nearly 3 minutes after Liam went under. The online comments exploded with people doing the math about brain damage and oxygen deprivation. People were furious that adults had stood by while a child drowned. Uncle Rick's lawyer sent threatening letters to the newspaper, but they just published those too. Meanwhile, the counselor helped us create a memorial webpage for Liam. We posted photos of him smiling and laughing from before the party. Within 3 days, it had hundreds of posts. Kids from the school wrote about times Liam had shared his lunch or helped them with homework. But the most powerful posts came from children who'd been at the party describing how adults had physically stopped them from helping. One girl wrote about how her mom held her back while she screamed. Another kid described his dad knocking his phone away when he tried to call for help. The truth was spreading faster than Uncle Rick's lawyers could contain it, and more people were finding the courage to speak up. That same night, Hugo texted our group chat with a link to something called Murder at the Pool Party podcast. My hands shook as I clicked play. The host was describing everything that happened at Uncle Rick's party in detail. She had the security footage somehow and was playing the audio of Uncle Rick screaming at everyone. Within hours, the episode had thousands of downloads. Uncle Rick's lawyer sent them a takedown notice, but it was too late. People had already saved copies and were sharing them everywhere. The podcast host said she got the footage from an anonymous source who wanted justice for Liam. Comments were pouring in from people all over calling Uncle Rick a monster. 3 days later, I was at Mom's friend's house when Sarah called me crying. Her mom had just packed up their stuff and left Uncle Rick. Aunt Linda had filed for separation papers that morning. Uncle Rick tried to tell everyone she was having a breakdown from grief, but Linda's lawyer had been taking notes for weeks. She had recordings of Uncle Rick threatening people at the party. She had copies of his angry texts. She moved in with her sister 2 towns over and took Sarah with her. Uncle Rick showed up at their new place screaming, but Linda's sister called the cops, and he had to leave. The next week, a woman in a gray suit showed up at our door. She said her name was Tess Say from Child Protective Services. She needed to interview me about the pool party. Mom tried to say I wasn't home, but Ms. C said she'd wait. She interviewed me for 2 hours asking about every single adult who was there. She wanted to know who stopped which kid from helping. She wrote down every name. She said all 32 families would be getting visits. Parents started calling each other in panic. Some tried to get their stories straight, but Ms. Say was too smart for that. She interviewed the kids at the school where parents couldn't coach them. Then Mr. Hiffner's son did something brave. He went on the local news and explained exactly what drowning looks like. He used medical terms to show how Liam wasn't faking. He said any adult should have recognized the signs. He said Uncle Rick's claim about fake drowning was medically impossible. The news anchor asked him directly if he thought it was murder. He paused and said it was criminal negligence at minimum. Uncle Rick called Mr. Hiffner that night and said his store lease was terminated. Mr. Hiffner had to close his business the next week, but that just made more people angry. Our group of kids started meeting after school at the library. More kids whose parents were at the party joined us. Rick's sudden donation to the swim center while standing at Liam's casket seems like such a calculated move. What kind of person uses their nephew's funeral to look generous? We started making a chart of all the ways Uncle Rick controlled people in town. Hugo was really good with computers and made it into a graphic. It showed Uncle Rick at the center like a spider with lines going out to every business and family he controlled. Property leases, business loans, job connections, everything. Hugo posted it on social media with the hashtag Justice for Liam. It went viral overnight. Thousands of people shared it. News stations started calling. That's when the state attorney general got involved. A detective named Bram McElroy showed up at the school. He wasn't like the local cops who knew Uncle Rick. He interviewed each of us kids separately in the principal's office. He asked for our USB drives with the footage. He put them in evidence bags and gave us receipts. He promised to keep them safe. He said this case was bigger than just our town now. Uncle Rick must have been getting desperate because he made a huge mistake. He showed up at the school and asked to speak with Ms. McAllister privately. She was smart, though. She turned on her phone recorder before he came in. He offered her money to transfer me to another school district. He said I was causing problems and needed to be removed. He said he'd donate $50,000 to the school if she made it happen. Ms. McAllister kept calm and got him to repeat the offer twice. Then she reported it immediately to the police. Attempting to bribe a school official was a federal crime. Detective McElroy arrested Uncle Rick that afternoon at his office. Then more footage showed up. A family 2 doors down had a security camera that caught everything from a different angle. You could see Uncle Rick pushing parents back from the pool. You could see him creating a wall of people while Liam struggled in the water. The timestamp showed it went on for almost 3 minutes. His lawyer's whole story about misunderstanding fell apart. There was no way to explain away what the video showed. Sarah had to testify at a closed hearing the next month. She was so scared, but she did it anyway. She told the judge that when she tried to run to help Liam,